Hi everyone, Kyle here from Bostick Family Light Show, here with you today to check out the new Pixel2Servos12 board from xLights. This board can power up to 12 analog or digital servos from a single WS2811 Pixel line. And in this video, I'm going to do an unboxing, setup, and a review of the board. Here we go. So in the box, you have the manual and the ready-to-run enclosure. The board itself is powered by 5 or 12 volts from your existing Pixel string. The board does, however, require external power for the servos themselves. Here we have the power input for servos 1 through 6, and here we have the power input for servos 7 through 12. You can bridge these two power inputs together. They can share the same power supply, or they can be from two separate power supplies with two separate voltages, depending on your project. Make sure that you do not bridge power from your Pixel string, however. Doing so can cause issues. When the servos move, they can cause voltage spikes and cause the Pixel2Servos board to brown out and reset. So just avoid grabbing power from the Pixel string and you should be all set. On this board, we have 3 different switches. The first switch here is to adjust frequency. We can adjust this between 50 and 200 Hertz, 50 for an analog servo and 200 for digital. Next, we have the pulse width in milliseconds. We have 1 millisecond or 2. If you are unsure what your servo uses, leave this on the default 1 millisecond. If you send a 2 millisecond signal to a 1 millisecond servo, you can cause it to overextend and you can damage it. So if you're unsure, just leave it as the default 1. And if your servo is not rotating the correct amount of degrees, say it's rotating 90 instead of 180, switch it over to the 2. And finally, the third switch is our data size in bits, and the options are 8-bit and 16-bit. 8-bit is going to utilize 3 pixels, where 16-bit will utilize 6 pixels. And then here you can see we have servo bank 1 through 6, and that is powered through this power input here. And then up here we have servos 7 through 12, and that gets power from this power input here. On our pigtail for our Pixel line, we have 12 or 5 volts, and then we have data input, we have data output, and ground. Here we have a test mode built right into the board, and right here we have the 2 LEDs that will indicate when the board is powered on and in use. So the next thing we need to do to get this board working is we need to add our external power inputs, and I need to switch out this X-Connect pigtail for Array Woo, and then we will be ready to go. I use this 2-wire automotive or marine style connector for all of my power injection and for wiring up motors and things like that. I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to check these out, but these work great for power input or power injection. Now our board is wired up, we can connect our servo. So we can connect a standard servo like this one. And this servo has 3 wires. If you want, you can get one of these extensions. Both of these are sold on xLights website. And you want to pay special attention to the pinouts for the board itself. The ground pin faces towards the top. In my case, that is this black wire. So we will set that up so that faces towards the top. And now we can jump over to xLights and start to configure this. So inside xLights, there are a few options you can use to configure this. You can use a block channel, you can use a DMX servo, or a DMX skull, depending on what you're trying to do. In my case, I am going to be using or making some animatronic skeletons. So I'm doing a separate video on that. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, now's a good time to hit that bell icon to make sure that you get the notification once that comes out.
I hope that video is more humorous.
You're dead to me. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to be using a channel block. So you can come up here in the layout tab, and the channel block is next to the candy cane. So go ahead and click on that and drag it out. And in my other video, I will be doing a DMX skull. So that configuration is a little more complex. In this video, I'm just going to keep it simple. So we'll do a block channel. By default, it will give you 16 channels. So you want to make sure you change that to 12. That will represent the 12 servos. Go ahead and you can save that. And then we can assign this over to the controller. Jump over to the controller tab, and you can click on your controller, click on visualize, drag the channel block over to your correct port. Go ahead and you can do an upload input and upload output. And you can save this again. You can get a little more complex with this. If you want to add a DMX servo using the same channel, you can see what the servo motor will actually be doing in real time. xLights has already done an in-depth video on this, so I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out. To keep things simple in this video, I'm just going to use a block channel for now. If you want to get more precise movement, you can use the 16-bit option. As I was explaining earlier, the 16-bit option will give you more precise control. It will use roughly 65,000 bits of information as opposed to 256 with 8-bit. With 8-bit, you have 256 options to configure your control, and 16-bit, you're roughly 65,000. So you can get much more precise with that. So that's up to you on how accurate you need your movements. If you need it to be a little more smooth, maybe a little more refined, then you can go with the 16-bit option. In my case, I'm just going to stick with the 8-bit just for this video. And we can jump over to our sequencer. Go ahead and you can create a new sequence. In this video, I'll just do an animation. And we have our channel block here. So what you're going to do is double click on channel block and you'll have your 12 outputs. Go ahead and grab an on effect, and you can drag that onto the port that you are connected to. So once you drag your on effect, the channel block is going to use the brightness and this on effect to control the servo. You are going to do values 1 through 100. Brightness will give you the option to go from 0 to 400. The servo is only going to respond to the first 0 through 100. So you can set a precise value here. You could do any number between 0 and 100. If you want to get some movement, then we can create some type of curve. So if we click on this button right here, we could do, say, like a ramp up and down, starting at 0, going up to 100, and then back to 50. That will get this servo to start rotating, and we'll be able to see that in the video. So let's set that. We will click output to lights on. And you can see now that the servo is moving and rotating, and it's moving kind of slow. If we adjust how long this effect lasts, we'll see this move either faster or slower. depending on what you're trying to do here, you can get, real fine tune and get real creative. You could use a sine wave, ramp, sawtooth, or any of the other value curves. You can set precise values if you want it to be in a specific location at a specific time. If you want it to stay in the same place, you just need to use the single value over here instead of a value curve. So that's all you need to get started with doing servos and the xLights Pixel2Servos12 board. You can absolutely get more detailed or precise motion depending on your application. This is just kind of a basic configuration to get you started. Overall, I think this board is really great. It's perfect for my project where the Pixel 2 DC board would have fallen short. The Pixel 2 lines has some really great use cases in our hobby to bring your display to the next level. The only thing I'd like to see this board come with is the power wire and maybe an adapter. There is no standardization in power injection or power wires in our hobby, so I understand why it's not included. I would like to thank David and Lee from xLights for sponsoring this video and sending me this cool board to check it out. If you guys are interested, I will leave a link in the description below for xLights website. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you have any questions, leave a comment. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel so you can check out the progress on our skeleton video.
Before you go, why do skeletons and vampires not get along?
I don't know why.
Because they're a pain in the neck.
Okay, we're putting these bad skeleton jokes in the skeleton. See you next time.